Okay, a very, very warm welcome to Sangha night. Especially a warm welcome to those of you who have come in from the Transform Your Life course. Welcome to you. And a very warm welcome, of course, to Zoom. We have a Zoom content to our Sangha night, and they are up there. So this evening, I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction to what we're going to do this evening, and then we'll be cracking on with interviewing these two fine gentlemen sitting next to me, which is why they are sitting next to me. And it's part of a series. So we've had, I think I'm right in thinking it's a series of 3. This is the third night. And we had, the first week was Sarvajit talking about the council and how the sort of centre, well, decisions are made isn't the right way of saying it. He put it beautifully, actually. So he was talking about how the council supports the centre and supports the Sangha, supports the whole community of all of us practicing here in Cambridge. So Sarvajit took us through that. And then last week, Liz and Abhay Mati, who both work on the centre team here at the Cambridge Buddhist Centre, Liz was interviewing Abhay Mati about his role here and his experience of what it's like working at a Buddhist centre, basically. He's been doing that for quite a number of years now. Both very good, both recorded on YouTube. If you would like to catch up with them, please do. So that gave a bit of an insight into that. And then this evening, we're looking at another aspect of the centre and our community, which is volunteering and how people volunteer here. And we have 2 very fine examples of our volunteers. I will just say Mary was also going to be here this evening and is really disappointed not to be here, but very sensibly staying away as her husband is still testing positive for COVID. So she's doing the right thing, but we're sorry not to have her here this evening as well. Yeah, so in a minute we're going to talk about volunteering, and Archie and Kuladipa are going to tell us about their experiences. But I just thought I'd say a few words really just to put it into a bit of context, volunteering and what that means in a particular way, I guess. And really it's to do with, hello, no, you're fine. There's cushions at the front, or if you're more comfortable on a chair. A few words about generosity, which is very closely linked to volunteering, to giving. Basically, that's what we're doing when we're volunteering. So generosity, another word for generosity is dana. Generosity is the second precept. You guys who've been on the course would have done the precepts, and the second precept is with open-handed generosity. I purify my body. It's a very deep, essential practice for a Buddhist to be practicing. And it really is when I was thinking about this, it's the absolute heart of what happens here at the Cambridge Buddhist Centre. Fundamentally, the Cambridge Buddhist Centre is Sangha, it's community, it's the community of all of us practicing together. The building itself is simply a building. I mean, that's called the Cambridge Buddhist Centre, but it would be nothing without all of the people coming in it together to practice together. And sort of giving is at the heart of that Sangha, at the heart of that community. It's what makes Sangha happen, actually. And people practice generosity and giving in so many ways here at the Buddhist Centre. People might practice generosity financially, might give money, they might give their time, energy, skills, all kinds of different ways that we can kind of give and contribute in a way and sort of co-create or create together what we have here. And our Sangha is very much a culture of giving. So we're not passive consumers here in a way. We don't just sort of turn up for an evening class and that's it. I mean, you could do that, and you're very welcome to do that. That's a possibility. And there's so much more. There's so much more. Just by sort of stepping through the doors, you're stepping into a possibility of just being able to give and participate in creating what we have here. Yeah, Sangha community is, I love it when I hear people say it's a verb, not a noun. You do Sangha, you kind of give of yourself, you create it, and we create it together. We can't create it just on our own, we create it with each other. So just to name a few ways of participating in the Sangha, you might give financially, you might support classes, there's cleaning, there's working on our reception, gardening, maintenance, various things in the building that need doing. You can imagine it's a big building and it needs quite a lot of looking after. And I was just reminded when I was sort of thinking about this, of kind of the way the community is created and just the things you can do after lockdown and before we reopened the centre. Liz, who coordinates a lot of our volunteers here at the centre, and a team of regulars, just gave hours, regular volunteers, I mean by that, gave hours to really bringing the centre alive again and beautifying it and decorating it and cleaning it and sorting it all out. And they just created this wonderful energy and really transformed the building and sort of livened it up, ready for everyone to come back into. And it was quite something. And if you ever stepped into any of those sort of times when everyone was working, it was very joyful, very, very delightful. And we had a volunteer morning this Saturday, actually. Kelly, you were there. We had such fun. I don't know about you, I'm looking at you, please nod. But like, it was just, there was a lot of laughter, and we got an awful lot done. There was about 11 of us, I think, but it was very, and within that time, you know, we created a little community actually of people working together. We meditated, worked, had tea, had lunch. It was very, like a very, you were there as well. It was very enjoyable. And a little glimpse into sort of what we can create. So, without further ado, this evening, let's go a little bit more in depth as to sort of what it is to volunteer at the centre. So, as I say, this is Kuladipa, this is Archie, and they're going to talk to us this evening. So, I've got a few questions, basically, but we'll see where we go with it. And I thought we'd just start, so if you could introduce yourselves. I don't know if you want to go in a particular order, but just sort of briefly introduce yourselves. Maybe we'll go to Kuladipa first as you're sitting next to me. Just sort of, how long have you been around? Well, maybe how long you've been around the Dharma, but particularly Cambridge. And what is it that you do volunteering-wise here?
Good, okay, thank you. So, yeah, I've been coming to the centre here for just over 10 years. I started going to the London Buddhist Centre initially in Bethnal Green. That's where I first encountered True Anna and started practicing seriously as a Buddhist. And after about a year and a half, we moved to Cambridgeshire. But I suppose really when I first contacted the Dharma, I had contact with Dharmas going back a long time when I was 18 years old, and I went overland to India. I thought at 18 I was a Buddhist, or I wanted to be a Buddhist. I was a wannabe Buddhist. So I thought the thing to do is to go overland to India, and I went to lots of the Buddhist holy places. But at 18 years old, there were too many other things on my mind. But I bought in Nepal, a nice statue of a Buddha, we call a rupa. And I've had that everywhere I've lived ever since then. I've always had that rupa, and it's always been there, sort of. So I thought, you know, one day I'd get back to it, really. And it wasn't until I was going through quite difficult stuff. I was very low. Things seemed to be falling apart in my life. I remember looking at the Buddha and looking at a book on the shelf on Buddhism and realizing, actually, this is what I need. And fortunately, it didn't take me long to find a London Buddhist centre and went to classes there. But then we moved here, and I guess really by that time, I knew I wanted to give whatever I could of my life to developing as a Buddhist and being with Buddhists. So when we came here, I think my main thing was just to sow myself into the Sangha, really. I didn't really know what I was going to do, what it meant really to volunteer. I just said to the person who was manager at the time, Sangha Devi, can I volunteer? You know, anything, I don't mind what I do. And she suggested that I go on reception. So that was 10 and a bit years ago. And I've been sitting behind that reception desk ever since. I haven't moved. But I must say that I can't think of a day that I've come, and I used to do 2 days a week, Thursday and Friday. Now I just do Thursday. And I can't think a day over that period where I've come through that door and not felt lifted by the place. You know, on Wednesday morning, I might be sitting at home and down in the dumps and feeling sorry for myself. But when I walk in here Thursday morning, I remember I did a speech, just talked some time ago, and I remember looking it up the other day, and they said, it feels like I've been given a blood transfusion. It feels like, you know, something that, and Kalyanadhi, you know, because she works on the Thursdays, and what often happens, I come in here, I'm so joyful, and we just dance together, you know, and
that's been known.
So, you know, and that's just, I think that's part of just the joy of being in the centre. And so I work on reception, which involves answering phone calls, answering emails, welcoming anybody into the centre. You know, different people come in. Some are people who are part of our community, part of our Sangha, and it's just nice to say hello and get to know them a bit. And sometimes it's people just off the street. You know, sometimes I see people, I'm sitting at the desk there, I see people sort of standing outside and looking and sort of, you know, going away and walking back. And they feel they want something from here, but they're not really sure what it is. And so I try and sort of, you know, invite them in and just talk to them, and you know, just sometimes they say, yeah, I'm interested in Buddhism, can you tell me about it? Well, yeah, okay. So, you know, I do my best to you know, explain, you know, a bit about Buddhism, depending on what I feel their interest is, tell them particularly about our community. And one of the lovely things I really like doing is someone who's new, you know, I said, if you've got time, I can show you around a bit. And one of the things I just love to do is to show them theatre and just to hear and see their gasp as they walk into theatre. And it's just, I just love being in this building. I know you said it is just a building, but it feels imbued with something. And I think part of volunteering is just being here, being here amongst other people, you know, getting to know people. And I sort of feel that when I'm here, I hinted at it before when I said, you know, I might be a bit down on a Wednesday. When I'm here, it sort of brings out the best in me, I think. When I'm here, I feel I'm the best that I can be, if you like. And so that's what I do. That's my main job, reception. But I also do some teaching as well. So I guess that's volunteering. So I teach meditation and Buddhism as well. That's also part of my volunteering.
Thank you.
It's okay.
I mean, you're not all singing and dancing all the time. It's only on Thursday mornings.
It's only on Thursday morning I sing and dance. I'm just so happy to be here. Well, occasionally I do elsewhere as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Archie.
Thank you, Kuladipa. Unlike Kuladipa, I haven't found anybody to dance with me when I come across on Monday mornings, making the journey across from Luton. I started going to an outreach group in Letchworth about 13 years ago. A bit like Kuladipa, it was personal circumstances. Life was very challenging at the time. And basically, I just needed a safe haven. It was a bit of a sticking plaster. And I don't quite know how, but I think best described by a process of osmosis. The Dharma seeped in, and at one stage, with a lot of encouragement, I went on my first retreat, a week-long retreat. That seemed such a big thing to do. And it changed. Things really changed, and I started to realise that without having realised it before. I was on a path that I wanted committed to, that it was really, really important to me and how I lived my life. There was a real emotional connection following that retreat and a real desire to commit. However, committing in terms of volunteering was a different matter. I was actually doing 2 bits of volunteering work in Luton, which were really important to me. I think Dharna, irrespective of Buddhism, has always been a really important part of my life, an important part of my practice. The more I learned about it in Buddhism, the more I realized how important it was, and just seemed to be something very tangible that you can reach out and do. I could understand what it means to be generous. The challenge was to be more generous, not to rest on my laurels. But despite that, I remember having some resistance when Arthur, sitting over there, suggested to me that I might like to come and volunteer at the centre. And what immediately went through my head was, God, do you know it's an hour and 10 minutes from Luton to come here? And I didn't say that, of course. I smiled and said, well, I'm quite busy. And then the next time I met him, he said, you might consider volunteering at the centre. And I said, he's persistent. And the same sort of process went through my head. And actually, in the end, it was almost a leap of faith. I thought, well, there must be something about volunteering at the centre that I'm just not getting at the moment. Let me give it a go. And essentially, that's what I did. So I started coming along, I think about 3.5, 4 years ago. Sorry, like many people, the pandemic has sort of thrown my calendar out of sync. I think it was around that sort of time. And the one thing I did, I made sure I volunteered in an area where I felt comfortable. So that's turned out to be the toilets, essentially. I come from a big family, and growing up in that family, I was the 3rd boy, and everything fell on my elder sister, the cleaning and things like that, because mum was holding down 2 jobs at the time. And my sister wasn't big enough to bully my 2 big brothers, but she'll bully me. So I got bullied into doing the domestic chores. I just got used to it, and it became something that I actually quite enjoy doing. So a bit like Kuladipa, I can remember the first few times I came across, there was a lot of trepidation, because I'm looking at 1 or 2 faces who I'm now familiar with, who I wasn't familiar with at the time. And I had them on a pedestal, which probably needed cleaning, but I had them on a pedestal, and I was a bit anxious about coming across and feeling to what extent I fit in. And, I suppose there was a little bit of sense of, am I quite good enough for this? But just by sheer chance, I think out of the first 4 visits, 3 of them, I opened the big door to come in, and a Bayamati was there. And he just had this huge embracing smile. And I knew I was in the right place. I mean, before he said anything, he just smiled at me. And it was like a huge, friendly bear hug telling me I was welcome and I was in the right place. So it still took a little bit of time to be completely comfortable. I remember still the first time it was suggested that I might organise what bits got cleaned on the day that I was there, just organise the team a little bit. And I was always a little bit anxious about that. But over time, actually, one thing that's come out of that, even that organisation bit, is the opportunity just to see the Dharma at work. Because all I've literally got to say is, would anybody take on the house? Will anybody take on the theatre? And there's never any issue. If a job needs doing, you just do it. And there's real generosity. It's the Dharma at work in that process. I could go on and say more, but perhaps I should hold fire.
Maybe hold fire for another question.
Yeah, for the questions.
If they don't come up, then just say what you're going to say.
I'll have forgotten it.
Thank you, Archie. There were some really interesting things that I might come back to. I made a made a couple of notes of some of the things you said. So I think, Archie, I think you've answered sort of the why did you start? Basically because our city told you to.
Absolutely.
No, our city asked you to persistently. And you just kind of decided to give it a go. Yeah. Basically. Yeah. Kuladipa, can you remember a particular reason why you started volunteering?
Well, I said a little bit, I just moved to Cambridge from London, and I just wanted to get involved and more involved. And it was about to start a study group, and I'd already been to a couple of events. And I suppose just looking for ways in which I could involve myself, connect with the community here and be part of the community. I just wanted to be part of it in whatever way I could. And it just happened to be a space for reception, but it could have been anything else. I was quite happy to do that. I mean, now looking back and seeing what it's meant to me and what I've got out of it, I can say that. But at the time why I volunteered in the first place, it was something about just wanting to connect. I think want to be involved, to find out more, to engage myself in what seemed to me. This is what I wanted to do in my life, and so how could I engage in it more?
So is it what you expected?
It's a lot more than I expected. You think, oh, reception, wow, it's not interesting really, is it? Answering phone calls, answering emails. But it's just been it's a wonderful opportunity. You mentioned the word opportunity. I mean, in all sorts of ways, it's an opportunity. I feel I've learned so much, not, just about how to operate the phones and things, but, in a wider sense, because volunteering, when you come to volunteer at the centre, you're connecting with other people and you're getting to know other people. And, particularly people who are more experienced than you. You're finding out from how, for example, how they lead their Dharma lives, how do they deal with particular situations in their life, So it's not just Dharma from a book, it's Dharma in real life, and you're seeing that and you're encountering it. And also, how, in any work situations, can be challenging sometimes. I'm not saying, it rarely is here, but
a question about that.
Okay, so I'll leave that out. But it's it's how I put in practice, for part of my week, how I put in practice my ethical behaviour. Yeah, I try, to do, I can talk more about that later, but in connection with new people coming to the centre, in connection with people who work in the centre or part of our community already, it's a way to practice ethical behaviour. But I'm just learning so much, really, I think. And, find out more about Buddhism, about the Dharma, about why Sangha is important for people, about our movement throughout. When you're here quite a bit, you just pick things up and you've got the opportunity to explore them more. It's much more flexible when you're here for a period of time. You can just say to Tim, let's sit down and have a cup of tea and let's talk about that. And I think, discussion about the Dharma, whether it's, my own meditation practice or something I've been reading, just needed some clarification on. So, that's the sort of thing when you volunteer, you've got that opportunity just to explore more deeply and, learn all the time. But of course, the other opportunities, the opportunity to give whatever we give, and we've all got our strengths, haven't we? Whether we're young or a little bit older, or whether you're experienced or inexperienced, there's always something you've got to give of your life experience, and it's just an opportunity to be that. And I didn't realise, I think, at the time, how much it would be, much, much, much more than just answering the phones and answering emails.
Thank you. What are you, Archie? Is it what you expected?
No, and that's partly because I just hadn't realised the importance of being immersed in Sangha and the opportunity to contribute to something bigger than myself. So I think that when Arthur said he was gently encouraging me to consider volunteering at the centre, I was totally focused on Dharma, as I said, a really important part of my life and my practice, and still is absolutely vital. But I was missing the other dimension of just an opportunity to be immersed in Sangha, and to obviously giving a little bit back, but that was the Dharma side of it. It is a special opportunity just to be around people whose life is the Dharma, and the Dharma seems to be their life. There doesn't seem to be any gap between the two processes, and it's just interesting at times just to stop and observe people, even how they're going around the simple cleaning jobs, how they negotiate slightly tricky things that are coming up, and their practice is just so far in advance of mine. But that's just the motivation, because the other thing you get a sense of, everybody's now off their pedestals and the real people. Until I came to the centre, most of them were on pedestals, and that was my doing, and it was an impediment to me really connecting with them. And when you're just chatting and they just come up and hello Archie, and it's a quick chat almost about anything, all very natural, and you just see, actually, the Buddha was human, I'm human, they're human. And in some ways that may be, I haven't reflected on this, but it's just popped into my head, it may be one of the most important things that have happened to me, that I too can follow the Dharma. I'm no different in essence to these people. Yeah, I'm less spiritually developed, but the potential is no different. And then I have the exemplification of how they're actually enacting the Dharma and making it their life, which is really inspiring. So I think when I reflect, the word that comes through is I've just got an immense sense of gratitude for the opportunity, and even grateful for Arthur Siddy's gentle persistence. Paid off.
Thank you. I might just kind of following on from that, I was thinking, so I was going to ask about challenges, because certainly when I sort of think about, I remember when I used to volunteer on reception a number of years ago, and there's nothing like working with people to maybe rub up against people a little bit or find those difficult things, that sort of the ante is upped a bit, and it's not just meeting for a cup of coffee or sort of perhaps chatting in a class or something. It's very different. You've got tasks to do, and it can be challenging in that way. There might be other ways that it's challenging as well, but I'm interested to hear if there are any challenges, and particularly sort of, you've been talking about pedestals and people coming off them, and you're meeting people in perhaps a more real setting, and I imagine you encountered some things you think, oh, not sure, you're meeting real people, you're not meeting Buddhas, you're meeting Buddhists who aren't, perfect. So I don't know if any of that resonates with you, or what challenges there have been sort of while you've been volunteering.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think, the centre is a pretty harmonious place, but as you said, when none of us are Buddhas, we've all got our little foibles, and as I was trying to say earlier, it's a good opportunity to practice, whether it's patience or tolerance. You're meeting people perhaps who you wouldn't normally choose to be your friends, but you've got in common that you've got a shared purpose, you've got a shared path, you're Buddhists. And so you're always trying to look for, ways to resolve any little things. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, for example, someone said to me, "We go and clean the sink." And I might be thinking, oh God, I left it sort of dirty. Is it, you know, is he having a go at me or something like that? Or I might be thinking, oh, he thinks I'm just sort of sitting around doing nothing on my backside. You know, I'm being lazy and he's getting me to do that. Or perhaps something I said to him last week is he's getting his own back or something like that. But I don't know, you know, I don't know what it is. But all I'm doing is responding to that request, I think, and say, okay, the sink needs cleaning. And I'm doing it. I think, you know, that idea of just, okay, that needs doing, rather than thinking all the time, well, what's he, you know, what's he, you know, what's he getting? I don't know, you know, in the end, it doesn't matter. But, you know, that's just an example.
And that, so, but just that opportunity to kind of look at what your mind might be doing actually, and just say, oh, okay. I don't know if it's your experience, but sometimes there's a little more space to do that here, or just because it's this environment.
I think it's something about being in this environment. As I said earlier, when you walk through the door, I feel this is a very special space. And I think, you know, immediately I walk into this space, you know, through the front doors, but, you know, even more, it's sort of in this space. There's a sort of, I don't know, there's an awareness in the air. There's something in the air. There's a mindfulness in the air. There's an encouragement to be mindful, to, you know, I mean, for example, I wouldn't ever consider, say, swearing in the centre, because it just doesn't, you know, it's not the right place to do it, you know. Not so I swear much anyway, but, you know, there's something about this place that, you know, it's got a sanctity about it, you know, and, you know, it demands something of me. It demands me to be more mindful, I think, of my behaviour. You know, so, you know, in a situation like when someone says, you know, I can examine, okay, what's going on here? You know, am I right? I'm going to respond this way, whatever it happens to be. And, you know, it teaches you patience as well. Sometimes it can be very busy on reception. There are phone calls coming in, people want a book, someone else is asking you to do something. You know, so it's teaching you patience, it's teaching you tolerance, it's teaching you forbearance, you know, all positive Buddhist virtues. So, you know, that's why I say it's an opportunity to practice the Dharma when you're here. I mean, another challenge sometimes, you know, when you found something which you feel has changed your life, you know, you want it to be available to everyone. And sometimes on reception, people come through the door, you know, over the years I've been here, someone who's got very serious mental health problems, or someone who's clearly an alcoholic, or got serious drug problems. You know, and your initial response is, you know, what can I do, you know, to help? But, you know, at the end, you know, I'm not geared up, I'm not trained to help that person. You know, I can try, and all I can do is offer a sympathetic ear and to listen and that. But at the end of the day, you know, to say, sorry, I can't help you, you know, I found quite difficult, you know. But, you know, for some people you can, some people just not in a position in their life where we can offer the Dharma. So that's been a challenge for me, I think. It's taken me quite a while to reconcile. I wanted to just be able to, you know, open the doors to everyone, but, you know, we can't always do that.
Have you got any thoughts on that, on challenges?
I suppose if I'm thinking of challenge to myself, there's been one that's just solely about me, and I hadn't realised until I was cleaning the toilets one morning and sort of thinking how much more I had to do. And I suddenly realised I had this view that the most important thing was to get all the toilets done, come heaven or high water. I was going to get it done because that's what Archie did. Give him a job and he gets it done. And I started to reflect on how often that view has sort of coloured my life, and I've been more about the goal of sort of finishing the task rather than actually the experience of doing it. And it brought to mind, why am I doing it? And I'm not doing it to have 6 or 7 clean toilets at the end, although that's one level, but there's a much more important level about contributing to Sangha. So that's been a bit of a challenge, actually, because I've realised I've been doing it. I volunteer for the Red Cross as triaging on the phone potential new clients, and I get a list. And I found that I'm sometimes, even when I'm dealing with some people who are in, you know, dreadful situations, I can find myself thinking, oh, I've got to get through the list, rather than stop it. You know, just be with this person that you're talking to You know, that's what's important at this moment in time, not getting through the list. So that's perhaps a slightly different challenge than you were talking about, but it's one that's been helpful for me to see that view and to try to challenge it and gradually loosen it, at least to some degree. I think in terms of challenges, in terms of expecting people to behave in particular ways around me or towards me, I've been very fortunate. Perhaps I got rose-tinted glasses, but I don't think that's the case. I think the centre is a special place, and it is particularly harmonious, certainly the most harmonious environment I've ever been in. And I think that's what's always most prevalent in my mind. But I did witness 2 cases where people had inadvertently upset somebody by something they said. And what really struck me was the honesty of the person who'd been upset. I'd been in lots of social situations where the thing to do would be to sweep that under the carpet or to pretend it hadn't happened. And they showed real integrity and honesty by saying, you know, actually, you know, that's upset me. And then the response of the person who had caused the upset was really terrific. So it's a real you know, Dharma in action. It was great just to witness. And I found myself thinking, how many times have I just acquiesced in those sort of positions and haven't really said and been honest about what effect it's had on me? And I think I still need encouragement in that. So one thing you do get from being here is you're constantly seeing people acting in ways that it is challenge, but it's also encouragement, encouraging me to be more mindful about the way that I respond, you know, to get away from the classic reaction to a more thoughtful response.
Thank you. Thank you, Archie. It's a really beautiful example. And I think I was going to quote when I was summing up, but I might do it now. Where is it? Something Abhayamati said last week. He said, Sangha is any situation where Dharma activity is happening between people. And of course, that's communication between people. Essentially, Sangha is communication between people. That's what Sangha is. And what you just illustrated there is that sort of that honesty and depth that you can get in Sangha, and that creates deeper connection and deeper Sangha, I guess. It sounds like that's sort of something you've really witnessed there, and something you're able to be part of in being more involved in that way, or involved in that way, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we've only got a few more minutes. I was going to ask you about benefits, but I think you both probably covered a lot of that. But if there's anything else you sort of want to add, and just if there's anything you've got to say about, I think really implicitly you've both been talking about participating in Sangha, basically, you know, both of you are sort of experienced in your volunteering a way of giving and receiving more and more just by making connections with people. So yeah, I don't know if you've got anything that you haven't been able to say that you wanted to say, or anything around that in particular, around sort of connection.
I'd like to just go back and emphasize the point that you mentioned when you were talking about Saturday's volunteering work at the centre, when people came across, and you said it was just fun, just enjoyable. And you know, if you ask me, probably my most immediate response to why I come, it's because it's fun, because it is actually enjoyable. You know, all the other things are fantastic, but it is just really, really good fun just being around nice people. And quite often it's very humorous, very funny, and it's great. I think humour is a fantastic vehicle for connecting people, and there's masses of it here. And certainly it was one of the key things in making me relax. You know, if you make me laugh, I feel that I'm connected, that I'm welcome, and there's loads of fun around the place. So I don't think that's to be, from my experience, it's not to be emphasised. It's really significant.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's just at the beginning we were recapping what happened over the last few weeks, and you were talking about the way that the council supports the team here. You know, the team would do a fantastic job, you know, keep this centre alive and, you know, organising events and all sorts of things. And, you know, part of the volunteers role is what we do is, you know, supporting the centre. You know, we do whatever little we can do in our own little way, whether it's cleaning the toilets or answering the phones, whatever it is. It's supporting a project, I guess, that we would believe in. You know, we believe that, you know, the Sangha is a force for good in the world. And we're trying to contribute in our own little way to getting that, you know, that good out there. You know, I used to think that when I first encountered the three jewels, you know, the Buddha, the teacher, the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and the Sangha, broadly, the community of people who follow the teachings of the Buddha. I could understand the Buddha, I could understand the Dharma, you know, but why is there such an emphasis on community? I couldn't get. And it's only really becoming involved in it. And really that, you know, it's not just about transforming ourselves. We can't do that on our own anyway. We can only do it in conjunction. We're all interconnected, and we can only do it in conjunction with other people. But, you know, our task is a bigger one. You know, ultimately, our movement is about transforming the world. And, you know, if we can contribute in our own little ways to doing that, well, it sort of makes our life worthwhile, I think. So, you know, just a small cog in a bigger cog, but, you know, the cogs go out, and I think, yeah.
Thank you. I think I will, in ways what both of you have been saying. I got this quote from Sangha, the man who founded our movement. And he says, one cannot really help oneself without helping others, and you cannot really help others without helping yourself. And I think it's just beautifully illustrated by both of you, the sort of giving what you do both transforms yourselves and it's transforming other people and the environment and sort of creating Sangha. Really, it's sort of what makes here, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think you've both really beautifully illustrated that sort of coming together with I guess what you would say would be shared values, and giving your energies to what you're valuing the most. Like, you know, you both, I think, wanted to come along because it was, you know, you could see the value of it. Also, maybe not initially actually, but then as you sort of continue on, it's like, well, actually, no, this project is really what you're sort of wanting to give more and more of your energies to. That's certainly been my experience of coming along here as well. Yeah, and just to really reiterate, sort of, we talked about, you know, with Sarvajit talked about the council, we talked about the centre team last week, we talked about volunteers now. The centre wouldn't be able to flourish, the Sangha wouldn't be flourishing if any one of those factors was missing. Like, we're all needed, each and every one of us participating in whatever way works for us, is what creates our Sangha. And what I find really exciting is, you know, the potential of that, like what more there is that's possible. And the more people that hear the Dharma, the more people that come along, the more people that want to get involved. That's potentially very exciting. So we'll end there, I think. Thank you very much to both of you for coming along and really, you know, very honestly and openly talking about your experiences and for all that you give as well at the centre. It's invaluable, I think, as with all of our volunteers, really invaluable what everyone gives. So we've got a little bit of time, so I thought we could go into groups. Now, if you are from the course, please do go into your usual home group. And if you are with Sangha night, maybe come over here and we'll work out who's who. And just a couple of questions if you want to talk about it. So what's your experience of generosity? What's your experience of giving? And if you have experience of sort of being in the Sangha, do you have a sense of co-creating the Sangha by giving and by what you do? Do you have a sense of that? So that might make more sense to some than others, but what's your experience of generosity? Do you have a sense of co-creating Sangha by giving what you do? So we'll just have sort of 15 minutes or so. So yeah, if you'd like to gather. And if you're not part of the course, just 2 or 3 minutes before we'll have a cup of tea. But just interested if there's anything come out of your discussions, any questions or comments that you would like to share with the wider group, please do. And if you're on Zoom, pop something in the chat.
Now, I want to ask a question to the gentleman, because he said he's volunteering here and Red Cross. Can you choose among those two volunteering experiences, which one you prefer?
Sorry, could you just repeat the last one?
You said you volunteer here and volunteer for Red Cross. And it's such a varied experience. Do you have a preferred volunteering experience? It's all right.
In terms of the actual act of dana, of the generosity, no, it seems to me emotionally very much the same, and both are equally important. I think the difference is that when I'm volunteering here, I'm in a small way contributing to Sangha, to developing Sangha. And I hadn't realized that until I actually started volunteering. And even then, I didn't realize how significant that was. So as you're contributing to Sangha, you're immersed in it. And you just hopefully learn almost from osmosis, a word that I used earlier in a different context, but it's the same thing because you're immersed in it. So volunteering here is even richer. And also it's helped me with my volunteer on the Red Cross, because there are some situations where I'm talking to somebody, they're in absolutely dire circumstances, and your heart opens up and it can be really, really painful. And if you have a few of those calls in quick succession, it's really important that I think about myself as well in that process. So certainly volunteering here and just the Dharma in general has helped me to be more generous to myself and recognize that in the process of giving. And I think as a consequence, I'm better at the support work that I do with the Red Cross as a consequence of that.
Yes, that came out of people's groups.
I was just struck by something Archie just said, that somebody in our group was talking about how much they're involved in helping others. And if you are very involved in that, you have to make sure, don't you, that you don't lose yourself in that. You don't lose contact with your own well-being. And I think involvement in Sangha can help you be more effective in every sphere of giving. And perhaps it can only be, I don't know, significantly transformative if you do stay in touch with yourself during that.
Yeah, I think you've articulated that very well.
And there's something in that as well, isn't there, about sort of bringing yourself in a particular way. And I'm minded about what you were talking about, Archie, when there was that sort of difficult communication that you witnessed, and that person was just sort of bringing themselves in. And it's not always appropriate to do that, and sometimes you need the right context. But even just to have that awareness of the impact that something's had on you can be so key in how you look after yourself and then how you respond. So yeah. Okay.
There was just one more thing.
Yeah, go.
Just again, something Archie said that, and I mentioned this in a talk recently, that when I'm asked to do something, very often my first response is a gut response, and it's no. You know, can you do something? And I think, no. And I don't stay with that no. But I just wanted to say, having that no is okay. Feeling the resistance, because being asked to go beyond yourself, you do meet the resistance, don't you? You're talking about going beyond comfort zone. That's what you meet. And that's why sometimes the no comes up. And but no doesn't have to be the final answer. But no comes up, you're in good company. But don't let it be the final thing.
Absolutely, and it's important to look after yourself, isn't it? And not
It is.
overstretch yourself as well.
Absolutely.
Like it's not about just saying yes, 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 but giving when you can, and maybe exploring that no a bit as to what it is.
Yeah, something we talked about in our group actually was to have a whole day free. To be able to come and volunteer is quite tricky for somebody working full time. But then we also talked about, well, actually, might be an hour or two on a Saturday, I think just this weekend, and that might only be, once every 6 months or something. And there's kind of a big range of commitments.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all kinds of different ways that you can participate in. Yeah, whatever your conditions are at the time. Yes. So actually, on that note, I'll just sort of round off by saying we're hoping to have more of those Saturday morning volunteer mornings. So if you are interested, keep your eyes peeled. And if you're interested in volunteering at all at the centre, just drop Liz an email, liz@cambridgebuddhistcentre.com. She sort of coordinates all of our volunteers. Or you can go onto our website, How Can I Help? I think the section's called, and have a look on that. It'll give you a few ideas. But, just to round that bit off. And so we'll have a cup of tea. Thank you very much, Archie. Thank you, Kuladipa. It was really good to hear both of you so articulate and open, and a lot of food for thought. And
thank you.
Sadhu on what you give.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have a cup of tea.